What is going on, everybody? Happy last week of the NFL regular season. BobbyFi, I got my guy Jake Rohde. We're going to be talking about this 13 game slate, 14 on FanDuel. Look, we know this is one of the wildest weeks of the year. I would encourage people to try to avoid chalk from some unknown games here. It looks like Rohde pulled up his screen before I did, which is great.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Were you gonna pull it
and
up, or you want?
What's that, Rohde?
Were you gonna pull it up, or
No,
I
no, this
can?
is great. This is great. I'm on my laptop, so it's a little
Yeah, I
tricky.
can run it. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always think on these ones, and I'm interested in your thoughts. Like my overall, I like playing the chalk for the teams in must win spots. I don't mind over like hammering a team like, Tampa Bay, for example, today. But I really don't like playing chalk from the quote unquote other games. Now, if it's a quarterback like Josh Dobbs or something, that's a different story. But like guys like Jennings, guys like Malik Neighbors who are getting a lot of love. I'm going to be lower on plays like that just because I really do think there's a legitimate chance for a quarter or two from a number of these other popular plays from these games that are have no implications of any kind, especially when it comes to young players that really don't have a ton to play for. And then of course there's the bonuses and all the extra motivation stuff. So that's what I'm looking out for today. What about you? Any overall thoughts before we get into positions?
Yeah, it's kind of wild slate. I think I've been looking at the incentives. We had some good Discord, and in the Discord we have posted some good incentives, for teams and players, and there's some big ones for guys. A couple quarterbacks have a couple bigger ones too. So it's a couple teams we might want to keep an eye on today as well. So yeah, just
Yep.
kind of focusing on trying to find where I want to go with my lineups today.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing. Totally get that. Yeah, it's weird, and I guess we'll get into some games and whatnot. I do think that on FanDuel, and I know it'll have some ownership, but I would be all over the passing side of that Detroit and Minnesota game. That could be kind of wild, that game, and both teams as good as they are, they tend to give up quite a bit in the passing game. So I think that's a pretty good game to target over there. Also, you have the late swap ability and all that. So with that said, Rody, let's get into positions. What are you looking at quarterback here? I did tag my core plays for what it's worth for anybody who's a true DFS member. But what are you looking at quarterback? You have the chalky guys up at the top, but then it sort of spreads out a little bit. So where are you at quarterback wise on DraftKings?
Yeah, I kind of like the teams like I did last week. Like the Bucks. I like with Baker. They're still playing for. They got to win. Denver's got to win. I like that game. The Chargers. Herbert's not a bad price. They're playing the Raiders. Been a team we want to target a lot in DFS this year. The Dobbins has a big. I know Dobbins has a big incentive, but Herbert doesn't really have any incentive. But they could get benched late in that game, so I do worry about that. We have the Dobbs at 4,000 seems to be the optimal like cash build. He's going to be good for tournaments too, just because his price is only 4K. You have some good options to stack with. No Debo, so you got Kittle and Jawan Jennings to stack. I think Arizona's going to play some of their starters, so they're going to be playing. Maybe that's a game you want to target with guys that just going to play the game to finish the season. Then Flacco with Indy, he got caught fire a little bit late. There's receivers got there late last week. That wasn't bad. So I kind of like those quarterbacks mostly. I know Jaden Daniels is another one to target. Also, Kyler Murray's got a rushing touchdown. He's got to score in like 50 yards rushing, and he could win like 3 million or something. I think.
Yeah,
Crazy in the Discord we had it. So he might be going. Yeah, rushing touch, not 3 million, 750,000, 50 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. Gino's going for. I should mention this. Gino's going for one.
He's got
He
3
got a
million.
big one though, right?
Yeah, 3 million.
3 million for 185 yards passing. So
Yeah.
I feel like they're going to be chalking it a little bit.
Yep.
In that game. So I do worry about maybe I'll add a little Seattle in my MME. I'm doing a lot of different Saber Sim builds today, single entry, 3 entry max stuff. So I'm just going to kind of build Saber Sim out and hope it gives me a lot of these type of guys. I'm going to adjust my exposures to get some of the games that matter, and productions do reflect that already, so you should get those games that we want. So what are you doing, Bobby?
Yeah. Yeah, I have as far as the chalk goes, I don't have any issue with Josh Dobbs at all at 4K. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially cash game builds. But I think it works for tournaments as well. And Geno Smith would be one of the other one who I would have as a core play for. Wow, sorry about that in the harbor here. A lot of boats. Geno Smith, Josh Dobbs are the two at the top that I like the most. I'm not as interested in Tanner McKee. I do like the Kyler Murray thing that you mentioned, and I like the Flacco idea a little bit. The one who might get a little bit overlooked, and it really depends on how the game flows. If they're able to run the ball, maybe he gets taken out of it. But I think Penix could have a big week this week if that game turns into a little bit of a shootout, which we've seen a little more in those Carolina games lately. So those would be my main ones, along with the other one you mentioned in Baker. I'm not getting to the Jaden Daniels. There's a chance, like, it's an interesting situation with the Washington and Philadelphia, because yes, it would be. I think they both prefer to play the Rams, but it's not like they as much as they want to win and everything, they don't absolutely have to. It's it's just, you're talking about whether they get the 6 or the 7 seed basically, and either way, it's going to be a tough path to get there. So I also don't think it's a given that Green Bay and Washington win these games. I think they're actually playing two teams that are going to care about trying to go in there and win. So I'm not getting to as much of the Jaden Daniels at his price. But we do have, enough value if you wanted to do that. That makes enough sense to me. How about, and I was thinking about in terms of game stacking. I like that I mentioned the game on FanDuel to stack the late game, obviously the game that everybody's going to be watching today. But there's not like real obvious full stacks to me. I think you could make an argument for some of Seattle and the Rams. I think you could make an argument for a number of these. Maybe you just hope that New Orleans keeps it close, because you're going to, I'm going to be all over I would be all over the Bucks if I was able to play today. So those would be the ones for me. Is there any game stacks that stand out to you?
Not crazy amount of game stacks. Like, I like the late game on FanDuel. I put an extra entry into the Blitz this week for that game. Mm-hmm. I think the Arizona San Fran game's got a total that's decently close. Yeah, you could play. True. Both teams are still kind of playing for stuff. I mean, just because their backups are already kind of in. Mm-hmm. I think they're just going to finish out the season in that game. Yeah, besides that, everybody's out and all these other games. You're just going to have to hit the value piece that goes off in the game. Maybe the Jacksonville Colts game again. Brian Thomas is still playing Mac Jones. Mm-hmm. You got Flacco on the other side. They're already backups in the game. They're not going to the different backup, and they're not pulling their starters. They're finishing the season out for their fans or whatever they want to do. I like that game maybe just because of that purpose, and no other game if you do stack one, you're going to have to stack it with the scrubs, but there's a lot of value pieces. Yep. Problem is there's too many value pieces. There's so many guys. You don't even projections. There's 13 games on the one, so it's just, you just don't know.
It's tough. It is tough to try and figure that one out. Yeah, well, I guess we can slide over to running back here, because this is where, look, it feels pretty straightforward. I guess I'll go first here and let you sort of close it out. But it feels pretty straightforward to me that the guys I want the most of are Bijan and Bucky Irving. I also don't mind Dobbins is going to be really popular, but I don't mind being a little underweight that just because the ownership is going to be so high. And again, I like Bijan and Bucky already. And then Michael Carter on the low end is probably my favorite of the cheap running backs, followed by Ray Davis. Those are sort of my main running backs today. Who are you looking at? And and the other one I would take some chances on at low ownership would be Blake Corum and Tyrone Tracy. What are you looking at running back wise?
Yeah, I like all those picks. Blake Corum a little bit too, not bad price at 5.6. Tyrone Tracy at 5,800. Michael Carter, the cheap one at 4,700, getting a lot of ownership here. Like that a little bit. I don't mind Garendo too. He's at 5,900 in that game, San Fran, Arizona game. He was getting a lot of work last week. Charbonnet too, and that, with no Walker out, he's already going to be playing the game. They could get ahead of that game a little bit maybe and pull starters a little worried. Dobbins has a big incentive. I don't think you mentioned Dobbins. I think he's. I
mentioned him. I just thought he'd be so popular that I had to be underweight somebody. I thought
58 rushing yards just for 150,000. Yeah. I mean, what's 150,000, right? I'm just kidding. But
yeah, for us, we would love it.
Yeah, he's super popular. I didn't realize how popular he was. Yeah, might be worth being under on that a little bit. He might get his 60, 70 yards and be done. They could, like I said, they could pull starters in that game. I feel.
Yep.
I am worried about that game. Bucky's a great play. I think Bijan that Bobby just mentioned, I love both those guys. I'm really tight on the pool. I think it's the main guys for me. I'm going to load up on those guys we just mentioned and then get different with my stacks and my cheap pieces at receiver and combos there. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And
running back's tough this week.
It's pretty loaded. It does feel like a pretty common build. You'll see some 3 running back builds, I think, quite a bit. But the name I didn't mention that I forgot to mention was I wouldn't mind taking a shot or two on Garendo. I just don't really know. It feels appropriate that he's about like what SaberSim's got him at 12% ownership. That feels appropriate. I wouldn't mind being a little bit overweight that. I guess he's the only other one I forgot.
Yeah, that's why I kind of liked him because of his ownership, and I mentioned him as well. He's just trying to find a lower piece now. These 23. Carter's going to be high owned. Dobbins looks to be high owned. Pollard is playing this week in a game. He looks to be high owned. It's just because they're cheaper. They're 6,200 or less, 4,700. You know, you got to find value. Do you want to play Mike Evans and some of these guys we're going to talk at receiver? You're going to need a little bit of value. You know, not much.
Absolutely. And for me, I said Carter and Davis. Who do you, are those your two favorites, or do you have two that you like better than them?
Yeah, Carter and Bucky, I would say are you value guys. Yeah.
Value guys, yeah.
I'm getting more Davis this morning. I wasn't yesterday. I did a lot of work yesterday on my builds. I'm getting a little bit more Davis. You know, I think Tyrone Tracy's a good play at 5,800 as well. I kind of like him in Grendo. I like the Grendo and the 5,900 price tag a lot. I think those are kind of my I'll mix all those guys and I'll have a little Davis. I'll add a little Davis in that.
Yeah. I've got some takes, and I'll get into it at the end. But I've got some more betting takes for games today than I do some of the DFS ones that are a little more contrarian.
Okay.
But let's go to wide receiver. Let's talk a little bit about what you like over there. And obviously Evans at the top seems like a very, very good piece of chalk. 85 yards to have his 10th straight year with 1,000 receiving yards, and a game they must win, and a team they should be able to score on. Feels pretty obvious to start there. But what else you got at wide receiver?
Yeah, I think he's got a big incentive too, right?
I think so.
Yeah, 5 catches, 85 yards for $3 million. He gonna be getting the ball today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Baker is gonna force him the ball no matter what. He's gonna be getting it on the middle, quick slants or whatever. But besides that, we want to look at guys we're gonna stack. You know, Juwan Jennings is here at not a bad price at 5,800. You know, Dobbs does run the ball a little bit more, but there's no Debo this week. He's got to throw the ball somewhere. You got Parasol, Jennings, and Kittle in that game to pair with. JSN for Geno. Geno, we talked about, is going to be chucking. He's only 6,100. Been a favorite receiver for him against the Rams team that's not really playing up. Maybe this is a week where we don't have any run backs, or the Rams have a bunch of cheap run backs. You could do Whittington's playing and Tyler Johnson. There's one other one too. You probably know him. I don't know. I got to get my value.
Whittington, Johnson, and Atwell for the Rams.
Atwell. Tutu Atwell is the guy that I like value in that game. I'm trying to stick with the games right now. Did I mention Sutton got a huge incentive bonus today for big money? You're going to want to play him. And Bo Nix is a guy I really like today, stacking him with Sutton is probably my favorite. Obviously, it's going to be chalky. He's really chalky. Brian Thomas and Neighbors are up there at good price at 7,100 like that. Lad, if you think Herbert's gonna chuck the ball, he's a really good price. So I like a lot of these guys this week in these game stacks. You still got Pittman, Pierce, and Downs. All Downs let us down last week. If you played Pittman and Pierce that we mentioned on the show, Pierce on the show, I had him in one of my big lineups. Problem is I had Pierce Downs instead of Pierce Pittman. I had Pittman and Downs in another one too. So I was really needed the Pierce Pittman combo. I'm really mad about that.
I hear you on those.
Really. Oh, Jalen McMillan for the Bucs. I like the Baker double stack with Evans McMillan a lot this week. I think that's a good one. Marvin Mims at 4,600. He's been a high use guy. Denver has to win this game. I think they win the game. But yeah, these are the guys I'm getting to. There's a lot of cheap value guys you can get to as well. I didn't mention Jacoby Myers in that game. He's playing today. You got Juju Schuster-Watson for KC if you want to run it back with one of those cheap guys for Denver this week. Drake London in a game that Bobby mentioned that could be a shootout, 6,500. Didn't mention him. And then I'll let Bobby mention a couple guys too in other games I didn't mention. I didn't mention a few of the other games to see if he has takes on that.
For me, the main ones are Evans and Sutton on the higher end. I do like Tutu Atwell, and I forgot to mention Drake London would be the other one for me. I do like Tutu Atwell. I also think that you could make a case for Whittington here at much lower ownership, so I don't mind going there. But I guess my stronger take is maybe to fade, because I think that Jennings is going to be he'll be right up there with the highest owned receivers anyway. I think playing Pearsall makes a lot of sense. Like, he just got, getting his legs under him. They don't, obviously, as we mentioned, we have no Debo, obviously no Ayuk for a while. We don't know about Kittle yet. And Pearsall had a big week last week, and it's Arizona team that you can score on. I think at 4,100, a low-owned Pearsall is it's a pretty reasonable guy to take a shot on. Johnny Wilson is another one I would take a shot on at 3K minimum for Philadelphia. The other ones that were showing up for me, I think that the Seattle tries to come out and win this game, and I like pairing both JSN and or Metcalf with Geno. And the Colts guys just feel a little bit underowned to me. Sheets mentioned in the Discord he's getting a lot of Colts as of right now. I think that's totally reasonable, and they're not getting the ownership that I sort of thought they would going up against this Jags team. They have nothing to play for, but they're going to go out there and try and win the game. And I certainly don't mind getting to some of that. That seems like a very, very logical way to go, as long as the ownership does, in fact, stay as low as it looks. And you have Brian Thomas as a natural run back on the other side. So I feel like that's a like you mentioned, that could be a good game stack. I personally would be under on Neighbors. I would be under on Ladd. I would be under on Jennings. Those would be my stronger takes of guys to not necessarily fade entirely, just to be underweight. And then I think you could see a good week out of Marvin Harrison. He's the last one I wanted to throw out there. And there is always that weird, okay, Aaron Rodgers, probably his last game as a Jet. Maybe we go right back to Devontae Adams after a rough week last week. I don't mind that either. So those are the guys who I had in my pool.
Yeah, I like, pretty much we're on the same page a little bit. I did have the value pulled up here on Saber for a minute. Johnny Wilson. I think you said him. Did you mention him?
Yeah, I mentioned Johnny Wilson.
Yeah, that's what I thought you mentioned him. And the Eagles, Neighbors is still chasing right behind Bowers in the rookie catches too, right, or something.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I just wonder how. And he's been pretty active and vocal, and a lot of times we were speculating 4 weeks ago that they would start resting him up for next year, and he just doesn't seem like he wants any part of that. But they're on the road in Philly. I could see it going either way, that he plays like every freaking snap, or that they literally take him out after the first or second quarter.
So you really got to worry about that in DFS for sure. Like you said, you want to be under. You're under on him more, and you're under on the Ladd. Wrestling these guys.
And if he was 5% like he was last week, I would say, hey, play all of them. You know what I mean? It's really an ownership dependent thing.
Yeah,
he was 5% owned last week, and he was it last week? Yeah, and he was a terrific play. It made plenty of sense to me then, and it's fine now. But I don't want to play 25% ownership or whatever it ends up at. All right, let's move over to tight end.
And, here I want to do one quick thing at receiver. I have Saberson FanDuel build pulled up here.
Oh yeah,
just want to make sure and see how Justin Jefferson projects the top. Then I'm on St. Brown. You got that big game over there. They're getting owned over there though, big time. I'm going to be playing. I've actually stacked the Sunday night game on FanDuel quite a bit this year. I've done well with FanDuel builds.
It's worked out pretty well. It's been like one of the better the better scoring games pretty much every week.
Yeah, every week we've gotten a decent Sunday night game for that, because their main slate covers the whole day, and it's actually been really good to get pieces. Bijan had a huge week last week on that Sunday night game for you if you added him in your lineup. Playing a piece from the Sunday night game's been really good. Jefferson, I'm on St. Brown, stand out big. I know they're expensive over there, but I'm definitely going to game stack. I think it's a really good game to play.
Absolutely.
All right, let's
get some Jameson Williams in there as well, too. By the way,
yes, I want to see. Let's just see his price real quick.
6,200.
What on FanDuel? What is he?
65.
Yeah, that's good. He probably be in my lineup. I'm probably gonna have him. I've been playing a lot of JMO. He's been winning me a lot of money. He's in that big best ball lineup I had. I mean, he was crushing it for me this year. So I've been high on JMO all year.
Yeah, and it's hard to get both St. Brown. I mean, you could do it, but it's hard to get both St. Brown and Jefferson in. So maybe playing JMO or Addison instead, as one of those guys, and then play the other, I think is a good way to go on FanDuel. But I would be literally probably half my players would come from that game on FanDuel, to be honest today.
I got a lot of building to do after this game, after the show today. I'm way behind as I had a basketball game I just came from.
Oh yeah, daughter's basketball game, huh?
Yeah, daughter's basketball game. So yeah, I had to give up about at least 45 minutes of building lineups today. So
yeah,
we got a lot of knowledge. I worked out late last night on my playbook and got a lot of info, but
Yeah,
So we're gonna
appreciate
move to tight end here, and a lot of people don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you're not. Welcome in, welcome in. A lot of people watching the show. It's our last show for the week or for the season, week 18. But obviously, we'll do playoff content and other stuff, showdowns and stuff like that. We love here as well. So let's move on to tight end. You want to start, Bobby?
Yeah, I'll start it off. So the I think that it's pretty clear that the chalk is going to be Trey McBride. I am confused about the lack of Bowers love. That's a very logical pivot, and to have him at 150 ownership of McBride, that's something I wouldn't mind taking a shot at, just because the ownership is just so drastically different. So at the high end, those are the two that I have. On the lower end, it's actually there's not as many. Actually, no, I'm looking on FanDuel. Let me double check on DraftKings that it's actually the same. Yeah, we've got Bowers. It's still 8% versus a 1/4 the ownership. But I do think both those guys are very, very strong. And Kittle is questionable, so that's a little tough to know what to do. And it kind of leaves you in a funny spot if you do go that route. I guess you can. I mean, you'll have multiple players in the afternoon games. I guess you could switch things around, but he was the other.
Yeah, you still have Bowers in the afternoon game if you switch it around to give yourself like that $600 or something. Leave.
Yeah,
you could just make the pivot if you want to do. If you want to pay down to Kittle, leave 600 or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. That
Bowers the afternoon game. You got Jonnu there late. That's about it, though. Really, you got Noah Gray. Some cheaper options, but
yeah,
I'll let you go. Keep going. Sorry.
No worries. Super cheap. I like Davis Allen. I like mid-range ish or cheap mid-range Zach Ertz and Jake Ferguson. I actually think Ferguson is probably the right way to go between those two. People are going to sleep on him a little bit after last week. And interesting that Dalton Schultz is supposed to play today in a meaningless game. I don't know that I'd want to get involved in that. He's the other one that I was considering, but Davis Allen and EJ Jenkins should be the tight end ones, and they're both 2,500. So if you wanted to go all the way down, those are the guys I have. This does not feel like a double tight end week unless you're going to find a way to play McBride and Bowers. So I just feel like I have a very small tight end pool today, personally. How about you?
Yeah, I was looking at tight end last night in one of my last spots. I go start at the top and work my way down, and man, I got here and I was like, wow. I listed about 8 you could play for targets. 4 I like a lot, and that was Bowers, McBride. I did like Kittle, but I know he's questionable. And then Chiggs, the chalkier one at 3,800, he's playable. He was chalkier yesterday. He looks like he's lower.
He dropped off a little bit.
Wow, he dropped off a lot.
Yeah,
he was big ownership yesterday.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what that was about. I can't understand it because
Some sites still have them way higher than that, but
yeah.
One guy I did like was Kyle Pitts a little bit, 4,000. I know he hasn't done anything really all year, but I mean, they're starting. Penix is getting going now, maybe a little bit more. That Carolina games have been a shootout more. Maybe he gets in the end zone. Maybe he gets more. He's been getting more involved. He's been getting targets from Penix. I like that a lot. Strange in that Jacksonville Indy game at 3,500 was another guy that's farther down the list. Mm-hmm. Payne Durham, I had him in that big stack last week with Baker. It worked out. I did like 4. I did Bucky, Evans, Durham, and Baker. It was looking real. It cashed well. Mm-hmm. Up there. I had a few more pieces, and I was, up in the sweep. I was still like 100th in the sweep or 60th in the sweep or something. It's not bad, but I don't know if I'm going to go back to him. I like the Evans, McMillan, Baker stack this week, but in Bucky, maybe I don't go with Durham this week. But he's an option. I don't think
it's a bad idea.
He's an option at 3,200. He's a cheap tight end. Tight end's rough this week. I think you can get. He got 11 points last week at tight end. That might be viable. All you need, unless Bowers goes off for 25, 30. McBride same way. Kittle same way. I don't see any of these guys doing much this week. Tyler Conklin's got a bonus he can get with one more catch, but that doesn't give me enough incentive to play him. Right. Rodgers does like Conklin a lot. He's always used tight ends a lot.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm really struggling at tight end. I think it's just going to be one of these guys in my stacks. Maybe I go Durham, Baker, Pitts with Penix or something. Kittle with Dobbs. I like Bowers a lot. I'm probably just going to jam Bowers at that ownership. He might be in all my lineups. He's in the cash optimal right now. I like him a lot. I think he's way under owned. I think he's going for records. I think he's going to get big usage today.
Yeah.
There was some news that just came in. Trey Lance is starting for the Cowboys. We did have a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Like Trey Lance and Higbee any this week. Bobby was one of the questions.
I'll throw at the Higbee thing. I think that would be a terrible play. He's coming back from an injury. They want him healthy for the playoffs. Maybe they let him run a few end zone routes if they get down there. And he catches a touchdown, but I don't expect him to play more than max 25% of the snaps.
I'm scrolling down. I don't even see the guy on the list.
I think he's like projected for like 1 fantasy point. And the only thing that could happen is he could catch a touchdown because they want to get him going again and they want to get him, sort of back in the rhythms. I think he plays in that 20 to, maybe 50, maybe let's say 50, somewhere between 15 and 25% would be the range that he would probably play maximum. The Rams have made it very clear that they don't really, they want to win a title. They don't really care about whether they get the 3 or the 4 seed. And they also believe in their backups. And it would be a shame if Higbee coming back from an awful injury, Higbee's a much better tight end than I think people know. I don't think there's any reason they want to try and go out there and mess with it, except for to get him some reps because he's been gone for so long. So I would not play him. And Trey Lance, look, it's never worked. He's never had a good game in any of his chances. If you want to take that gamble, go right ahead. I personally would not be doing it. But you could argue, could he have a better game than Josh Dobbs? Sure. I personally don't think I could allocate my money that way against a team with something to play for still. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, he's 4,700 on DK. I've not really liked the guy. He did come in and give some good reps that one game. He filled in for when Dak got hurt or whatever.
And he does have the rushing upside, theoretically. We just never really seen any of it.
Yeah, we'll see what projections do when we get an update here. I just check back on the projections, see if he does upgrade a little bit more. I bet he comes up from where he's at because they still got Cooper Rush in. But why are they sitting Cooper Rush? I don't know. Maybe but they both play, or they're just trying to get Trey Lance reps. I
think they did. It's nice to give Trey Lance at least a chance to do something. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree. Yeah, so he probably plays the whole game too. I don't know, 4,700.
I mean, unless they're getting like smoked or something, like 28-0 at halftime.
Yeah, I don't know. He might be viable. I'm gonna let projections work its way out. I'm gonna build on my MME around 12:30 today. Let a lot of news come in. We'll have some late news too with some of these later games, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sticking with my stacks that I really like. I really wish I could find a good tight end to play for Denver. I would really like the Bo Nix, Sutton, and a tight end stack, but none of those guys ever do anything.
They never do they? He just doesn't throw the tight end. That's just not the way that they play. And it's interesting going back to even Sean Payton when he was in New Orleans. He'd either have super Jimmy Graham or like literally would not throw the ball to the tight end. It was just like one of those things.
Yeah, so don't ever play a tight end.
It just has not. I don't think there's anybody who's gotten like double digits for them this whole season.
Yeah, and that Dulles guy did so good last year for the then he just gone. He's just nothing. They let him go, and whatever happened, he's on the Giants, and he didn't do nothing there either. They don't even have a tight end on the Giants.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just weird how things happen so quick.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's talk about some defenses. I guess if you don't mind, I'll jump in on this one real quick.
Yep.
I don't mind. I don't understand what the hell is going on with New England. I don't think Drake May plays more than like a quarter to maybe 2. I think it's so stupid. Honestly, you have the number 1 pick. You've already got your quarterback of the future. You're going to be able to do some swapping with that. You could possibly trade the pick. I have no idea what the hell they're doing. And if assuming that is true, the Bills look like a great defensive option against them today. I also think this 2.5-point spread is a joke. I'll get into that when I talk about takes of the day or whatever. But the Bills stand out as being, I think, pretty clearly one of the best options. I'm not as high on the Denver KC thing. I think that game's going to be closer than people think. And what is the other one that's look, you could certainly argue the other side of the New England, versus Buffalo. But the team that I like the most is, look, low ownership, 2,400. Give me the Giants against the Eagles, and that's probably my favorite one. But as Sheets always says, look, if you're playing a bunch of lineups, don't play more than 20% of any defense. You might even go further with that today because it's just so high variance with so many of these teams just with nothing to play for. What I would not do is probably play like the Packers are looking very popular. I don't like that at all. Caleb Williams is not as how long has it been since he turned the ball over? 9 weeks or something like that. As bad as the Bears have been, they're not turning the ball over, and I am not going to go that route. So that would be, I guess, my strongest take of defense is not to play the Packers.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I didn't mention Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, and Keenan Allen. Do they say they're going to limit those guys, or they're going to play them the full game? Do you know?
I don't know for sure what they're going to do, but they look, when you're not playing for anything, you can sort of, I would lean towards more the younger version of things if you had to do anything. But
yeah,
I really think it's speculating, and honestly, I don't even know that I think most of these teams have a plan, but I think that'll change. Things may change a little bit. Even seeing what happened to Zay Flowers yesterday, that you get the injury, now he's going to miss the first game of the playoffs. Hopefully those people, everybody's saying now they can understand why Barkley's resting instead of getting the record, but people are still complaining about it somewhat. I think teams with nothing to play for really, and the question of is Josh Allen playing? If you tell me Josh Allen's starting today, I'm not giving him credit for playing more than a quarter if he was to play at all. And I was actually to play him at all.
That was actually one of the questions we just got in the chat. Is Josh Allen playing? He's projected for a little bit of points, but not many. Looks like he could play one series or so, or a quarter, first half, maybe a couple series. I'm not sure either. This is the bad thing about Week 18. All these guys are projected, both quarterbacks for each team.
Right.
We don't even know if a quarterback that's projected to play the whole game is going to play the whole game at this point.
That's just the way that it goes these weeks. I remember I finished third in the it was a giant millionaire maker one. It was a $10 one on week 18, and I finished third in it, or fourth. But it was either third or fourth. And I played the running back I had. It was totally speculative. I think he was the highest scoring player on the slate with like 46 fantasy points. And I can't even remember who it was. It was about 5 or 6 years ago for Washington. And he was literally there was like 2 other people out of hundreds of thousands with him in the lineup. Like nobody played him. It's just a wild week where you have to take some weird shots. But I would not be erring on playing any of these top end, Josh Allen, whatever things. I would not play Drake May. I wouldn't play anybody who has nothing to play for, where there's either something they need to build for the future. And Caleb Williams, I guess you would throw in that mix as well. Probably doesn't play the whole game, but who knows? It is a rivalry game with the Packers. They kind of want to end on a high note. If things are going well, maybe they do leave him in there. It's really
maybe they want to showcase him or try to get him more reps and see if he can get things figured out a little bit too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I might build a million maker stack with Caleb Williams just because.
Just on that theory.
Just on that theory, I like. Someone mentioned Washington D in here. I'll give a couple D takes here. Washington, I don't mind. I do like your Bills call. Seahawks are kind of a chalk. They were a chalk here, one against the Rams this week. 2,900. I don't mind the Jets against Huntley, really. Like they have 2,600. I do like the Patriots a little bit against Buffalo, just because, maybe there's nothing to play for in that game. Both teams sit, guys come in and out, turnovers happen. Commanders, I do like against Trey Lance. Your call against the Giants at 2,400. I love that. I might end up using them in my big one, actually. That's a great call. Nobody's playing for the Eagles. Tanner McGee, Giants defense can get a pick 6 off any of these guys. Really, I like that call a lot, actually. 2,400. It's a great price. Just kind of mixing and matching these guys, I'm just going to mix and match these defenses all together that I really like today, or because, the backups are coming in and stuff like that too. So really like that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm looking at some things here, and, you have all these questionables and all these things. Miami still can get in the playoffs if Denver were to lose today. And it's just sort of occurring to me now that maybe that's the game you take a wild shot at, the Jets, like you don't even necessarily need to play the quarterbacks. Forget Huntley, forget Rodgers, but maybe you play like Adams and A-Chain at low ownership. Maybe you play Adams and Tyreek Hill at 6,700 at low ownership. I understand it's not like an ideal situation, but they could be playing for a playoff spot, really, depending on what happens. I mean, they're gonna. I'm assuming these guys are gonna play because they will officially not be eliminated until Denver loses.
No, I don't mind that. And Huntley's only 4,800, so he's in that same price as Trey Lance, or a little bit more than Dobbs.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll make a couple milli maker stacks with them, and hopefully that's the get weird play that you're looking for.
But even A-Chain, I don't think is even a get weird one. I think he just makes sense logically. There's just other running backs that look a little better. But I think he's an interesting. That might be my bold take. Is that the Miami? There's one player from Miami and one player from the Jets on the millionaire maker. That sounds like a good one to me.
Yeah.
I'll throw out a couple of just real quick takes on games today. I think this is a joke that Houston's an underdog to Tennessee. I know it's kind of a rivalry game, and Tennessee can give their best effort. Whatever, they're still terrible. I love Houston to win that game outright. I love the Chiefs to cover against Denver, and I love the Rams to cover and potentially win that game against Seattle. Those are my game takes of the day. Any other takes you want to mention, Rohde, before we get out of here? I know you got some building to do.
No, I just want to say Kenny Pickett is active for this week, but they said Tanner McKee is going to start. Drake May expected to start. Some news coming in right now. Watson's active. Dobbs inactive. Hunter Henry is inactive for that Patriots game.
Okay, Hunter Henry's inactive.
I think he was projected.
Yeah, he was projecting pretty well.
Yeah, he was showing a decent projection too as well. So he's going to be out. I know he's questionable, so he's out. Darnell Mooney this morning came. I seen some news yesterday night that he wasn't going to unlikely to play. He is inactive.
Yeah, I like that London play.
London looks good, or Pitts looks good in that stack.
And maybe to get off the board because he's not going to be owned. Maybe he will get some ownership, or maybe throw Ray McLeod.
Yeah, I was just about to say, throw in Ray McLeod a little bit. I've been playing Ray McLeod a little bit as it is. Someone mentioned Austin Hooper for New England. He's been getting a lot of work at 3,300. That might be a top value play now coming into the game. He's going to get reps this week. That's a good cheap play you can do. I like that in the chat. Mentioned that. Good job. Another inactive, Cade Otton, which he's inactive. Juwan Johnson's active. Tony Pollard's active. Trey Lance will start for Cowboys. That's all we got now. Oh, actually,
I think Hooper's going to look like
Miles Sanders active, and Leggett is active for the Carolina Panthers game. Miles Sanders was one we didn't talk about, but I did mention him. He's kind of cheap in my playbook. I did put him as like a value option. I think he's pretty cheap.
Yeah, I hear the Sanders. I'm a little worried that Blackshear gets as much work.
Yeah, there's the Blackshear. Yep, there too.
That's just my fear, but it is what it is. And I think Hooper is going to look like one of the best values on the slate pretty shortly. Once we get the Henry out of there. I mean, he was getting work even with Henry. So
yeah, he got a lot of work last week. Henry had a bad week last week. He had a couple weeks ago, he had 0, but Hooper's been getting a lot of work. So yeah, Sanders at 4K is a good running back, not overly projected high for points or anything, but he's only 4K, but looks like a split share with Blackshear at 5K.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's some concern, but 4K is very cheap.
Yep.
We really don't need that value, though. I don't think we got so many options today.
There's just so many.
There's so many. Every team we can go and get to the third receiver that he's on, or third, fourth, fifth receivers now are starting. You're looking at 3K guys everywhere. You really got to take your games that are meaningful. That's why I like the Bucs game and some of these other games that are meaningful games, or people that say, hey, we're going to play this guy the whole game. Maybe Dobbs plays the whole game to get some extra work. I don't like the split quarterback thing, or hey, this guy might play one series. Maybe that's what I worry about Herbert, and I worry about, all these other guys like that. So I'm just kind of playing games that matter this week. I think, Baker and Bo Nix are two of the top guys, and I think and then Dobbs right there. Penix, Atlanta's got to win too, right? So Atlantic stack's looking good now too.
Yep.
So I like Pitts there, and I like Drake London, like you mentioned, and then now you got Ray McLeod as a top piece to add in there too.
They got to win and pray, and also you have these little rivalry games that are depending on where with. Just some interesting spots Atlanta, Carolina. They've got a little mini in-division rivalry, and hard to call it a rivalry recently because Carolina hasn't been good. But going back to when they were, they're trying to mess it up for Atlanta. At the same time, you have New Orleans and Tampa Bay, who Tampa Bay is supposed to kill them. New Orleans is going to go out fighting. They got a coach who's not going to be coaching again next year, so it's just going to be interesting. They're anybody who's actively alive, just give the edge to them. This would be a really fun week to play showdown on every game, like playing, captaining like Blackshear instead of Sanders in that game if you were playing Showdown. But you just don't want to, you just don't need to do that kind of thing on a big slate for the full slate. But a Showdown, that might be the right way to go.
Yeah. That's got a higher total. That's got a 48 total, right? Too.
Yeah.
That's a decent, maybe.
Yeah, and I like the over for what it's worth in that total.
Yeah.
I think that Carolina tries to bring it with and Bryce Young they've been putting up points. They've been much more competitive the latter part of the year than they were early. So, all right, Rohde, take us out of here, buddy.
Oh, you're ready to just end it, huh? You don't like the Saints?
No.
You don't like the Saints. You don't like the Saints coach either, huh? I hate that guy. I think he's terrible.
No, I mean he's just a backup. I mean he was just interim. I don't think he's going to be back.
Yeah, he's wild to watch. So I can't believe people.
Insane.
Players can't like that guy.
No, he looks crazy.
He looks so crazy. But all right, guys, just stay active in the Discord. I'd say don't forget to hit the like, subscribe on the way out. Discord should be active with some new news coming in. We might get some news here after 12. Watch the news. Maybe a different guy comes into play. Maybe they announce what they're doing with the team or something. You catch a beat writer or something. So catch that news and stay active on the Twitter today. Stay active in our Discord. I'll try to drop things in as it comes. As always, good luck today, guys. Hit that like button and let's get it.
Go get it, guys.
Go get it.